You are listening to What It's Like with Luce, a podcast highlighting ordinary people doing extraordinary things. I'm your host, Lucy Norris, and on today's episode, I'm chatting with founder and CEO of NewMine, a company specializing in deploying enterprise-level blockchain mining operations. What began as an interest in cryptocurrency soon transformed into a successful company, which at just 19 years old, he brought to life in his med school dorm room. Now 23, I think it's fair to say we could all learn a thing or two from the ambitious entrepreneur who has also found himself co-founding a digital asset hedge fund in Palm Beach, gaining membership to the Forbes-approved Young Entrepreneurs Council, and setting up his own charity targeted at providing sustainable aid to impoverished communities. Speaking to me about his journey, here's what it's like to be Ibrahim Alkurd. Before we get stuck into the episode, I just wanted to say that if there is a drop in sound quality throughout, I'm very sorry. But in respect of social distancing during COVID-19, I've had to record episodes remotely. In this challenging time, we're all trying our best, so I really hope everyone is staying safe and that you enjoy the episode. Welcome, Ibrahim. Thanks so much for coming on and chatting with me today. I think the best starting point would be to go all the way back to when you were growing up and talk a little bit about what that experience was like for you. Were you always really entrepreneurial, or is it something that you became interested in later on in life?
Yeah, so if we go way back, so I was born in Palestine, and my parents moved to the UK when I was like super young, I think 5 or 6, and I settled in Manchester. That's where I grew up most of my life. And I don't know if I've always been an entrepreneur deep down, but like a lot of young people, I think that you don't really know what you want to do with your life. You know, when you're 16 and asked to pick your A levels, etc., you have no clue. And I was quite good at biology at school, and my parents they were quite keen on me to study medicine. So I pursued a medical career. I got into Cardiff Medical School. Um, so, but I mean, growing up, I always looked up to the Zuckerbergs and the Bill Gates of the world. Just the fact that they've started a company from nothing and grown them into these huge corporations that employ thousands and thousands of people. Those are the sort of people that I looked up to. So that's kind of, I say, my entrepreneurial spirit came about when I was probably like 16 onwards, where I started kind of thinking more and more about what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, really.
So you did end up in medical school, but you kind of quickly realized that it wasn't for you. So do you want to explain a bit more about how that experience was for you and then how your company came out of it?
Yeah, so I think it was really the first term of medical school where I was like, this isn't really for me. And some people might say like I came to the decision quite quickly, but I'm quite, I think, like I know what I want, and that was kind of, I realized that it wasn't really for me. So during first year, I came across just before first year of medical school, but I really started kind of looking into it during first year. It was the cryptocurrency and blockchain and Bitcoin, and I'll get into that a bit more. But what I did was I was trading on something called arbitrage. So I managed to turn around £2,000 into £12,000, and I was trading Bitcoin. And I'm pretty sure everyone's come across that term before.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of the starting point, because like that was in about 3 months. I turned that 2,000 to 12,000, and I was very buzzing, right? Because most people that are 18 don't have that sort of money. And I didn't tell any of my friends about it at that point. I just kept it to myself, because I feel that when you're starting out, try and keep as many people as possible on a need to know basis, right? You don't need to, psychologists have shown that if you tell too many people about what you want to do, that it can demotivate you. So I kept it to myself. And yeah, what happened was, in August of 2016, I started a company, and the company is called NewMine. And what we do is we produce computers that essentially run the blockchain network, which is what Bitcoin runs on. So we produce very powerful computers that solve mathematical problems and multi large scale deployments of machinery. So that's what we do. I don't know if that was that made any sense.
Yeah, no, it did. But I'm just curious about, so you started this company in 2016, so you must have been what, like 19?
Yeah.
How did you go from being a student in halls to founding a company?
When I look back and think, I just didn't know what I was doing at all. I'm like, I'm quite confident, but that was reflected in setting up the company. But I had no idea what I was doing. I just learned as I went along because obviously I had no business experience prior to that. So that some small amount of money I made trading Bitcoin at first provided me some capital to start, and that I made the website. I learned about the industry, like who to work with. Because when I started the company, I was just brokering sales, right? And that's a great way to like make some capital. Being a broker, all you have to do is invest your time and connect contacts, and you can generate some revenue. And when I wanted to scale it, I spoke to a lot of investors, but they all told me to go away, right? Because people, when they invest in companies, which I've come to learn, is that they back the entrepreneurs before they back your idea. And I had no credibility at all. I was just a kid with a vision. And I remember I was sitting with this investor in Manchester. So I sat down with him and he said, I have no idea what you're planning on doing, but I can tell you're smart. I can tell you're going to make a lot of money. And when you do, call me up. And I actually did try to follow up with this guy many years later, but unfortunately his email changed. So, but he was right in the sense that he got the gist. I knew what I was doing. This was a technology that had potential. But I wasn't going to get any investment. I wasn't going to get a loan, and I just knew that I had to bootstrap the company in order to scale it, really.
And did you do everything on your own? You didn't bring on any other people to help you out? This was all just from your room, I guess, by yourself?
Yeah, at the start it was just me. Like I was just one man army, did everything. Um, but I experimented with a lot of advertising because it doesn't matter like what you're selling. So you're selling computers, right? Doesn't matter what you're selling if you can't generate the leads. So I tried with Reddit, I tried with Facebook ads, Instagram, and none of those worked. The only thing that actually worked in terms of closing deals is Google Ads, because when people search for a product, your company is bang the first thing that comes up. And that's really what took off the sales. So the company was incorporated in August 2016. The first sale was February 2017 to a client in Texas that I never met face to face, but he wanted the computers that Newman was offering. So I found a manufacturer in the States and brokered that deal. It was I can't remember I think the sale was like $25,000, and the profit on it was like 8,000. So those 8,000 really gave me more and more capital and adverse and scale it. But I remember speaking to the client. I put a lot of confidence in that first manufacturer, because if I paid him, took the money from the buyer and paid the manufacturer, if the manufacturer didn't come through, I was in a really bad position. Would have been in a really bad position. But thankfully they did, and that was a risk that I took that paid off. And really, if that risk didn't pay off, then it might have destroyed the company. So I'm thankful to the manufacturer for really coming through in the end.
I think that's incredible that you were able to do that by yourself, though, and bootstrap your way to becoming what you are now all by yourself. So you secured your manufacturer and things were really picking up for you. So how do you think, in your opinion, you ended up becoming the industry leader?
So one of the big things was a first mover's advantage, right? So back in 2016, there were hardly any companies in the space. Like, we were definitely the first company in the UK that were doing it, and most of the companies that were operating in the same sector as us were Chinese companies. And when I saw that, I realized that people want, a lot of these clients in Europe and North America want like an English speaking company, English website, like all this. It makes them feel more comfortable, especially if it's incorporated in the UK, right? Mm-hmm. So it was a matter, like, there's definitely a first mover's advantage, because what demand really picked up for the industry really quickly in 2016 and 2017, and it was the buyers had limited options, and that gave us the first mover's advantage. But I think the other aspect of it is, like, I like pride myself on taking really good care of our clients, right? So whenever someone comes to Newmine and they want one of our products, I've really built like a friendship with a lot of the people. I give them my personal number. I tell them to reach out to me 24/7, whatever they need, really, provide for them. Like, I was taking messages at like 3 a.m. whilst I was in med school in order to answer the client's questions. And I think the other aspect of it is not to bill clients for everything. I know obviously we're a business. The objective of the business is to make money. But if a client feels like they're being rinsed by a company, like every time you offer something, you take money from them, it pushes them away. And, today we offer trial runs, offer our products, for a few weeks free of charge or a month free of charge, because it really gives confidence to the client, and it makes sure that our product is what they need. And also the other aspect of it is, so our average order size is 70K, 70,000 USD. So we're selling bigger ticket sizes, right?
Yeah.
And with respect to that, it's like when people are spending that sort of money, they really want to feel like they're confident in what, the company that they're buying from. And, I'm not going to lie and say we didn't make mistakes. Like, I made a lot of mistakes. I was learning, and I learned a lot of things the hard way. But really, it's just showing that you genuinely care, and regardless of what happens, that you're willing to go the extra mile in order to make sure that the clients are happy.
And when was the moment for you that you realized you needed to look for people to come on board and help you in terms of staff?
Yeah, I think so. I was very controlling at first, in the sense that I wanted to do everything, but I just kind of came to the point where I realized it just wouldn't have been, possible to scale it, and I'll just burn out, right? So I'd say within a year, within kind of towards the end of the first year, it was really a matter of like I need to start working with people in order to keep scaling the company. And I think when you bring in people on board to your company, you have to put a lot of trust in them. And like, no one is ever going to work as hard as you for your own company, because at the end of the day, the person that benefits the most from its growth is yourself.
Mhm.
But you can always incentivize it and motivate people. I don't like, I'm nicer in business than I am in real life. Like, I try to be nice in both, but I go the extra mile to be nice in business, because like, people don't want to work with someone that's just going to make their lives hell, right? And a lot of like, especially if you're a startup and there's uncertainty about growth and matters like that, people really want to feel like that you you want to work with them, they want to work with you. I think that's very important with startup culture.
And through all of this, I think people can't forget that you're still in med school. So I know that you decided to leave that behind and pursue New Mind full time. But when did you come to that decision, and how was it making that decision and kind of leaving the safety net behind?
Yeah, so I left in fourth year, and when you leave in fourth year of med school, you get a bachelor's. So after 5 years, you get a doctor. After 3 years, you get a bachelor. So I got a bachelor, which was good, because I'm hoping I can do an MBA in the future. I think so. Growing up, and there's definitely these golden ticket careers like medicine and law and engineering that, as a society, we push young people to do. And I think that that's something that needs to change within our culture, really, because the best thing that you're going to be at is the thing that you enjoy. And being an entrepreneur was pretty obvious, really, that I should have been a full-time entrepreneur, but it was just the uncertainty of it, and worried like, what happens if I leave, the company collapses, and I'm left empty-handed. And I came to realize that even if that happens, then I could just start a new company, or I can do something else. It's not the be all or end all. So it got to the point, I say, is that the years went on, is it became less and less manageable to juggle and balance the two. I've never failed an exam at med school, but it just came to the point where I was like an entrepreneur first and a med student second, which is crazy, considering like medicine is meant to be like a career that you devote your all to, because you can't really be like a part-time medical student. I think it just got to that point where I was just like, this is what I enjoy doing. I've done pretty good at it. So, now it's like the time to move on.
And so then you left, New Mind was fully up and running. It was now your full-time job and you were successful at it, it was working. So why did you then go and get involved in the hedge fund that you have as well?
Yeah. So like 2 years ago, over the internet, I posted on a forum saying I want to launch a fund, and it was like a finance forum. And the reason I did it was because people were asking me to like manage cryptocurrency assets. So I was you can't so when you manage people's money, you can't just take people's money and like manage it, right? You need licenses, you need to be regulated, etc. So by coincidence, the guy that came across my post was like, oh, I want to launch the fund as well. And he was building out a team. So I brought in a few people, he brought in a few people, and we set up the fund. So I have three other partners, like major shareholders in the fund, and they're all in America. So we set up the fund out in Florida. And it was just like, it just got silly because it was like, I enjoy starting companies so much that I started two companies like whilst in med school. I thought I'd be able to juggle that and a medical career and a social life, etc., and stay sane. Remember when I was sat in like end of second year exams, and I was just thinking about like pending orders. I could barely concentrate on the exam paper. So like that's just not sustainable or healthy. So the fund is definitely something that I've enjoyed. I would say like it's very stressful managing people's money, right? More stressful than managing your own. And there's a lot of responsibilities and trust that people put into you. You know, luckily we in Q4 of 2019, we were the top ranking fund in our industry, which like helped cause more interest and get our names out there a bit more. But I definitely enjoy like Newmind in terms of like the tech entrepreneur as opposed to asset management and finance aspect of it. But I mean, both are doing pretty good, and I do enjoy both of them. I think Newmind is still where my heart lies in terms of like being an entrepreneur.
I don't know how you've done it all because it sounds like you're just an absolute machine. I think I would have dropped dead by this point. But how was it taking its toll on you personally? I know you kind of mentioned a little bit about, having to juggle things and stuff, but as well, you're so young, you're experiencing this crazy success, you're dealing with huge amounts of money that, some of us could only dream of seeing, let alone having. So how was that kind of impacting on you as a person?
Yeah, I think that it definitely at first so the first year the company did Newmind did around 1.7 million in sales, right? And no one at this point knew about it. Like my close friends didn't know about it because I didn't like, because every time you tell someone, you have to explain what cryptocurrency is, what Newmind does, and it's very technical. And you know, with that regards, I just didn't want to go through that cycle all the time. And people like started asking questions. Like I was I would fly from the UK to Washington State, which is the west coast of the US, and that trip would take like 14, 15 hours. I would be there for like 12 hours for meetings, and then I would fly back like the following day, right? And there's 8 hours time difference between the UK and Washington State. So people started asking questions like, people would say, like, why are you going to the US for a weekend? Like I was like a holiday. So they just got like, this doesn't add up. So they started Google my name, stuff came up. So like word gets around, and especially at university, like everyone likes to talk. Especially if this is something like this that not normal. So it was that with regards to that. But I think that with so because of what's happened, a lot of my my friends, I love them, right, but they can't relate to the journey I've been through and the problems I have, right? When I've got employee issues or like dealing with like tax stuff and all that, like most of my friends now, like, so I'm 23, they're like just starting their careers, right? So a lot of my friends have now become like entrepreneurs. They run their own companies, and a lot of them are older as well, because I feel like with older people, experience of prices and can learn a lot from them. I'm not pretending that I know everything. Things have turned out well for me, but that's definitely been a challenge. It's like communicate the journey to people because people can't relate. And like the amount of times I've like been asked like, how much money do you have, or like, or stuff like that, and my answer is always the same. It doesn't matter, right? Because for me, it's about building the product and building a vision. And someone that's not kind of an entrepreneur might think that business is just like, you got the top line, so how much revenue you're doing, and your bottom line is your profit, and that's it, right? And it's really a lot more than that. A lot of the jobs that we have in the economy, most of them have been as a result of entrepreneurs that have started companies and innovated and created new products. And I think it's beautiful to create something from nothing, and it's like a baby, right? You need to invest a lot of time with it in the first few years, and as it gets older and older, it becomes more independent, and it can care for itself. And I see my companies as kind of my babies, really. So it's definitely something that I love doing, and it was very clear that I should have really left med school earlier, but it's just the way things turn out. What I say is that the only thing that was harder than getting into medical school was leaving medical school, right? because it really took years and years for me to finally make that decision.
Yeah, and I think what you said about the money thing is so interesting, because having spoke to other founders, it's so clear from each of them that money is just this kind of accidental byproduct of genuinely doing something you love. And it's so evident to see that people that are successful in business, it's because they're chasing their dream that they fully believe in, or they're waking up every day and loving what they're doing. So it's really interesting to kind of hear your perspective on that.
I just wanted to add that it's like when someone wants to be a professional footballer, they don't focus on how much money they make. They focus on being a good footballer. The
Mm.
money is a byproduct of that success. But because you're running a company, people think that the money is the goal. Of course, company has to be profitable, otherwise it's not going to survive. But you need to focus on providing value, building a good product, building something that's needed in the market, and then the money is a byproduct of that.
What do you think your secret in both of your companies was to growth? Because you've grown so massively in such a short amount of time, be it in, revenue, but also like client bases and stuff, because it takes people years and years to build up clients that are loyal to their company. So how do you think you did that?
Yeah, so the industry that we're in, the entire blockchain sphere, like billions and billions pumped into it in terms of like venture capital investments, people investing into digital assets and all that sort of stuff. And it's an emerging economy, and there's definitely a lot of interest in it. And it's been described, the blockchain has been described as the biggest innovation since the creation of the internet. I could spend 10 hours talking about why I think that is, but for me, people say I'm like a coder or like a tech star or something. Like every single company, so the companies I've been involved in, my position has been like a senior role where I've managed and dealt with people, like we've dealt with sales, that I've dealt with teammates, that sort of respect, right? I'm not a math genius, I'm not a coder, I'm not any of those things. But I think what has allowed me to do that is that I'm good at managing my time. I'm quite organized, and that interaction with people, and when someone sends you an email and you respond within a few minutes, or when clients see that I'd be taking messages early in the morning. I don't do that anymore because that I get help with that. But when people see that you genuinely are super committed to providing value and providing a good product, and you treat your teammates with respect, etc., then I think that helps create a great culture in the company. The most innovative companies in the world are the smallest companies, right? And Jeff Bezos, for example, he doesn't allow meetings where the team is going to be bigger than a team that will be fed by two pizzas, because with smaller teams you can be more innovative. And you need to kind of keep that, regardless of how big the company grows. You need to keep that sort of nurturing and innovation culture within the company, because if you don't, someone out of their garage is going to start making the company and out innovate you. So I think with regards to kind of the success of kind of Newman and the fun, it's just an aspect of just managing people and just being as organized as possible, really.
Well, it seems that attitude towards it has really paid off for you. I think another interesting talking point of your career is the fact that you are on the
YEC, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So the YEC is the Young Entrepreneur Council, and it was described by Forbes as to being America's most elite entrepreneur council. But they do have people outside America. Like 90% of people are in the US and 10% are outside. So I had a friend, like through business and networking, you kind of meet people, and you kind of are drawn to people that think like you, and have done well as well. I think that success attracts success. So I had a friend of a friend who was in it, and he was like, I think you'd be a good fit for this. So so I joined it recently, and it's a great way to network and meet like-minded individuals, and they also help you to get published on some good Forbes and Inc. and stuff like that. So that's been quite cool that I've recently got involved with, and I think it's about time, really, because I've not really got. I didn't get involved with any entrepreneur societies when I was at Cardiff University.
Mm.
I think they had one, but it wasn't very big. And this is kind of the first society that I've got involved with that actually has a lot of entrepreneurs. I think they've got about like 1,000 people all over the world. So, it's been cool. And, already, although that I haven't been part of it very long, it's definitely has nurtured some cool relationships, and I've learned some new stuff.
Yeah, well, you definitely seem to kind of go big every time, from missing out on college societies to then joining the most elite society in the world. So I need to take a leaf out of your book.
0 to 100, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Do you remember any really big roadblocks that you had to overcome when you were starting?
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely had a lot. So, with regards to Newman, we had some large orders in the first. I can't remember exactly when it was, but it was like in the first 2 years of the company, and the manufacturer, over-promised and under-delivered. I always like to under-promise and over-deliver, but they, did the opposite, and it put us in a really bad position with our clients because they were expecting to receive the machines at a much earlier date. And in this market, like 12 months is like 5 years in like a different market. Like, it moves very quickly. So when you tell people you're going to get this by this date, they're expecting it. Otherwise, they're not going to profit as much off what the service that we're offering them. So that put a lot of stress on me, and that was part of the reason I was saying that. I was thinking about, during the second year exams, I was thinking about my company, because there was a big backlog of orders as a result of that manufacturer. And they kept saying we'll get it done by this date, and then it wouldn't happen. So I'd have to go back to our clients and say it's been pushed back, and it's been pushed back, and it's been pushed back. So that was very difficult for me, because it was the first time that things didn't go according to plan. And it was quite stressful. And I didn't really have anyone that I could talk to about it or like get advice from it. And I just had to see it through. Really, it was a matter of just showing the clients that I was doing the best that I could to get their products delivered to them as soon as possible.
And at that point, did you ever, because I know a lot of what people say when we talk about co-founders and things is that they're really happy that they had a co-founder, so they can kind of confide in them when things like that happen, so they don't feel so isolated. Did you ever go through a period of feeling really isolated and thinking maybe you would stick with the medicine and it wasn't for you?
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. That so with the fund, I've got 3 other partners, and it helps a lot when things are not going too well, or when you want to get someone's opinion. That really helps. It's definitely better to have like a small piece of a big pie. Cliche, it's true. A small piece of big pie than a big piece of a small pie. Like, with respect to having partners, I think that's kind of the road that I want to go down in the future. As long as you're working with like-minded individuals, I think that you can always, regardless of how much you can always know more. And other people will have different life experiences, have gone through different journeys, so they'd be able to bring things into the picture that you would have never imagined. Right. I'm not very good. Like, I haven't got a good design eye in terms of like marketing and stuff. And like, having my partners involved with the fund with that has really helped in terms of producing better decks for investor decks and things like that. So I would say as well at this stage, that I should have said this at the start, but with our fund, it's only open to accredited investors, so it's not like open to the general public. So that's like a disclaimer that we have to say. But yeah, I think it's definitely a matter of just put yourself out there more and more, and learn from other people's experiences. Like, I went to the World Economic Forum in January, and I met will.i.am and like just like crazy people that they were just walking past me in like the hotels and in the conferences, and you just want to like be like you can't believe you're speaking to them, right? So
Yeah.
we were sat at the bottom of a hotel, and will.i.am comes up to us and he goes, "You guys look like movers and shakers," to me and my friends. We're like, "What?" And because like with the World Economic Forum, it's like the biggest annual gathering. Like 120 billionaires went. Like, it's a massive conference, so that when people see that, they expect that you're doing something crazy, right? So like, speaking to people like that, it's just been crazy. And like Aramco, do you know Aramco? They're like the world's biggest oil company out of Saudi Arabia. They had the biggest IPO earlier this year, and we like, there's like different sections of the conference, and this section we kind of snuck in to get in because we weren't big enough. We weren't big enough big dogs to get in. So me and my friend just like acted really confident, and we walked in, and it was like just surreal. Like, the food that they had, that the people were eating, and like I swear, like, filtered the air, because like the air we were breathing just didn't smell normal, or I don't know, that sounds weird, but being there was just like crazy, and to go from that in the space of like 4 years has, yeah, it's been a life-changing experience. I hadn't traveled that much prior to because I didn't, my parents didn't travel that much, and it was the first time that I had any money to travel, and that's definitely been really eye-opening, just to I managed to go to like 30 countries in over like 12 months or 18 months, and like just seeing more of the world just makes you realize, like, how fortunate we are, how small we are really in comparison to everything else.
Yeah, for sure. That's amazing. I don't know how you managed to kind of keep your business hat on and not let your inner, you know, 20-year-old be kind of like, oh my God, what's happening? um, but I'd also be curious to know what your parents think of this now, considering they were so set on you doing medicine.
Yeah, so they're happy for me, definitely. I think that they would have liked that I would have, like, if I'd finished medicine still.
Mm.
Um, just, my parents have that mentality, is like, have that degree, but I've got a degree as a result of it. But I
Yeah.
think now that they've seen me like happy and doing well, it's kind of realized that, okay, maybe he wasn't supposed to be a doctor, right? And medicine is not really a career. Like, being a doctor is, you have to devote your life to it, really, and it's not really something that you can do on the side. And
Yeah.
I was like, when I was younger, I was naive, and I was like, I'll do the business stuff. I'll have like 100 companies, and I'll be a doctor at the same time. And I was just like, now I've just realized that that's just impossible. So you just gotta pick and choose.
I think as well, if your heart isn't in something as hectic as medicine would be, it would probably wouldn't have worked out that well. But I guess the other thing that kind of came up from a bit of my research was that potentially there's been some criticism around cryptocurrency mining because of the amount of electricity it uses, that it could be bad for the environment. How have you combated that?
Yeah, so all the mining operations that we've set up have used renewable energy sources, predominantly hydropower. It's good for the environment, but also from a business perspective, it's much cheaper. So these machines that we run consume a lot of electricity, a lot of energy, and the business could be made or broken based on the electricity, the electricity price. I mean, there's no denying it does consume a lot of electricity. So, running a blockchain isn't something that's cheap, and it's a new technology. What's going to happen is that over time, right, companies are going to innovate, and the costs of running a blockchain is going to come down. But right now, it's definitely high. In China as well, I think around 2/3 of the cryptocurrency mining operations are running out of China at the moment. But what's going to happen? If you look at the internet in 2000 and compare it to now, it's completely different. So it's a matter of, we keep innovating and doing what we're doing, and over time, these costs and this consumption of electricity is going to drop. So that's really kind of what we're focusing on as a company.
And then moving away from the corporate side of your life and your career, you've also set up a foundation as well. I'm gonna probably pronounce this wrong. The Samar Foundation, is that right?
Bingo, yeah, that's right.
Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, so that's kind of a lifetime project, really, and it's so the Smart Foundation is named after my mum, and she's my biggest inspiration, like growing up and everything, because she has 6 kids. She's like done well for herself career wise, and that's why I named it after her. And it's really that's like a way to give back, and I'm learning about running like non-profits, and how trying to work with charities on infrastructure projects like water wells and things like that. So it's really an aspect of being a social entrepreneur, as opposed to to give back and to do something. And I think that I'm hoping that that's going to be like a legacy that will continue on, like after me and my family, my mum are not around and stuff, as a way to as a force for good, really.
How is it going now? Have you started it, or is it just in the pipeline?
Yeah, so it started. It's not registered as a charity yet, because so all the projects so far have been privately funded, and I've just been recently we were built a few water wells in Bangladesh. The people prior to that didn't have a clean water supply, and these water wells make a massive difference to the communities. So the projects have definitely started, but speaking to another charity that I'd volunteered with a while back, the director of the charity said that was telling me about how many mistakes she made, and really she had to learn a lot of stuff the hard way. And running, I learned a lot of stuff the hard way with New Mind. And now I'm at the stage where it's like, take things nice and slow and try to avoid mistakes. I don't want to be making mistakes when you're dealing with a charity, right? So I think one of the things that we're looking at building out is a way to trace donations. A lot of people, when they donate, they worry that the money isn't going to the people that need it most. So as a foundation, what I want to do is that if anyone donates, you can actually trace where your money ended up to make sure that it's going to the right hands. And I think transparency as a charity is very important. Transparency in general, companies, very important, but as a charity is super important, because people are giving you something, and if they see that this is actually helping people, they're going to be more confident in donating to you in the future.
Yeah, I agree. I think developing something like that where you can track your donation would be so helpful to not just your foundation but every other foundation as well, because I also feel like that's kind of the main reason that holds people back from donating. So that would be really cool. But just to add another thing to your roster, you're also working on a new project called Tiger Web. What's going on there?
There's like a few in the pipeline, so there's another one as well that I'm working on, but so those I like to keep top secret until they're a bit bigger, this is what's worked for me, like keeping it quiet. So next time when we do another one in a year or two, then I'll tell you about it, but in the meantime it's like gone in the top secret folder. I don't have a top secret folder, by the way, but in my head.
I can just imagine on your laptop, top secret, do not open. So just a few more questions before you finish up about you. What do you think's been your biggest mistake?
Probably, not staying grounded enough, I think, in terms of like, so when you're young, right, and a lot of success comes to you quickly, you just don't know how to handle it, right? And there came a point where I shouldn't have been making those like massive decisions for the company, because at the time that I was making those decisions, I was probably not in the best mental state, in terms of like, I had a lot of like stress and a lot of personal stuff going on. So that was reflected in the business, and I really ended up making some bad business decisions that cost me hundreds of thousands in losses. So looking back, if I'm ever in that position again, I'd say there's certain times that even if it's your company, you should, there's nothing wrong with stepping down, and it might be the best thing for your company. If you need to step down for a year because other things are getting in the way, we're all human, and really kind of realizing when you're not in the right place and you shouldn't be making those big decisions. Maybe someone else is better suited to doing that, and it's fine. There's nothing wrong with doing that.
What is your personal definition of success, and what's the secret to success in your opinion?
Yeah, so I think if you asked me when I first started the company, it would have been like to like create a massively successful company and employ those people and make a ton of money. But actually, kind of what I've learned in the last few years is that how you make it, the money, is as important as how much you make, in the sense that when you're doing it, you don't want to be harming the environment, you don't want to be harming the people around you in that sort of aspect. I think that a lot of bigger companies, when they get bigger and they start having investors and whatnot, they forget that we've only got one Earth, and they forget to take care of their employees and employee rights, etc. So it's very much for me about for me, success is building a company, but also being conscious of the world and people around me whilst doing it. So I think that's the main thing that I've taken away from it.
If I put your 10-year-old self in front of you now, aside from saying don't do medicine, what do you think is the biggest piece of advice you would give yourself at 10 years old moving forward in life?
That's the $1 million question. I think I would say, it sounds cheesy, but go with your heart. And honestly, like, we live in a rat race, right? People working so many hours a week, and if you look at the data, so many people are unhappy with their jobs and are depressed. And like, if you chase what you enjoy, right, that's probably going to be the best way that you'll be successful, because success isn't just, attaining as much wealth as possible, but it's also, it's enjoying and having that job satisfaction. Job satisfaction is priceless. So that's what I would tell myself. It's a matter of just follow your heart in terms of, what career you do. No one would do it. If you try out a sport and you don't enjoy it, you probably won't carry doing it. But with work, because people make money, they change their mindset, right? It's just, have to keep doing this, have to keep doing this. And there are so many people, so many of my friends that want to start their companies and stuff, but they're just too fearful of, what if this happens, what if this happens, what if this happens. But I think, what if the company blows up? What if you love your job and it works out really well? If you look at a lot of the biggest entrepreneurs, they've always been the most confident people, and they've had a vision and they follow through with it. There's going to be a lot of noise like that. When I started, a lot of people said, this isn't going to last, like, why are you doing this? But I just stuck with it because in my heart I felt like it was something that had a huge potential, and it worked out. So that, I would say that's a really important characteristic of an entrepreneur. It's being confident and positive. If you're constantly going to be dwelling on the negatives, you're not going to be able to see through some of the lows of being an entrepreneur. Because honestly, some of the highest and lowest moments of my life have involved my company, and I think that any entrepreneur would say that.
Well, Ibby, it's been so interesting chatting to you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You've had an insane life. You've inspired me now to go off and build something, because I want to experience everything you've experienced. Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Nice having me. I enjoyed it as well.
Thank you so much for listening, and as always, please rate, share and leave a comment if you like what you hear, and follow @whatitslike_pod on Instagram and Facebook. For more information on Newmine and Ibrahim's other business ventures, visit the links in the show notes. I'll be back on Thursday with more inspiring stories, but for now, this has been What It's Like with Luce.